Tired of ads barging into your favorite news podcasts? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Just head to amazon.com/ad-free news podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime subscribers. Some shows may have ads.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Anfield Index podcast. I am, of course, Trev Downey. I am still here in my field in beautiful rural Ireland, as ever I have been whilst podcasting to you. And I'm joined for this episode 377 of said Anfield Index podcast by Lisa Marie Hanahan and by Brainch. And we must start with the birthday girl. We are full of joyous tidings heading in your direction on this day, which, to be honest, could have panned out better for celebratory reasons, Lisa Marie.
Yes, that is how I woke up this morning, was to the news and my husband saying, "Happy birthday. Did you see the announcement?" So, yes.
Oh, ouch. Right. Yeah.
Like, yes. So, yes. Yes, today is my actual birthday, along with, you know who I know I've told you this before, Trev. I share the day with two interesting people. Former Liverpool manager Brendan Rodgers, as well as Jose Mourinho. So,
wow, okay, that's quite the duo.
Actually, one other person that is, I guess, sort of Anfield Index adjacent. Alan O'Donoghue's younger brother, Colin, who is an actor. His birthday is also today as well. So, anyway.
You know, I was gonna, now that you mention it, I haven't seen Colin in anything for a while, and you're a bit closer to the case there. I think you would be more in contact with Alan. Have you? Is he? I know he was in a TV show that was pretty successful, but I haven't seen him in anything recently. Are you keeping abreast of how his career is going?
He's done some like voiceover stuff. There was an animated film on Apple, I think last year, that he had, his character in. And then there's some other series that is done. It's like TV series, and I can't think of the name of it. But yeah, animated that he's done some voiceover work with as well. And then there was a series on Disney Plus / National Geographic that it only ran one season, but it was about the Mercury astronauts, and he played, oh shoot!
That was the one. Yeah, that was the one that I saw. That was.
But before that, of course, he was on Once.
Yeah, it was good.
It was the long running series that he did very well with.
It was quite a big deal. Quite a big deal. Yeah. Fair play. I wanted to just ask you how you feel about being 29 again.
Yes, I do enjoy celebrating the anniversary of my 29th birthday. Well, that's what I started calling it that when I was probably, I don't know, pushing 40. And so I started referring to it as the, 11th anniversary of my 29th birthday. But yeah, the numbers gotten ridiculously high now. So I've kind of quit doing that. But, I have to tell you, 51 is hitting a little hard. And I don't know. I think I've made a mistake. Last year when we were, gearing up for the big 5-0, we took the trip over to Ireland. I'm thinking in retrospect, I should have waited and done that for my 51st birthday. Because I feel like I need something more to celebrate now. So anyway, something to look forward to. But yeah. But no, I'll be spending the weekend at a dance competition. So, yay.
Well, some things never change, eh? Some things never change. At least you always have that one constant. Yeah. So we will obviously be talking about the thing we're alluding to there in a second, but not before we say hello to Cam, who has had himself a day outside altogether of the Liverpool stuff. Literally just joining us minutes before we went live here with the mics after a big old stretch. So how's the energy levels, mate? You reckon you'll get through 50 or so minutes with us here?
I will endeavour to do my best, young Trevinder. No problem. We're troopers. We're troopers. If Jurgen can do it for 8.5 years, I can do it 50 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly the kind of attitude we like to hear. Look, the elephant in the room won't stop making noises and shuffling and drawing attention to itself. And you don't need to be a genius to work out what that is. We've been variously coping with it all day in our own ways. I think some of us have had the ability to vent about it on various shows on Anfield Index already. I've come off a show there with Dave and Harry, which is basically like our raw reaction to this fairly monumental news that Jurgen is stepping down at the end of the season, which is a full season ahead of the contract that he had signed, which had extended to 2026. It's safe to say that nobody saw this coming. It's safe to say that when it dropped as news this morning, somewhere I think between 10:30 and 11 our time here, that it was such a shock that I assumed the first thing I saw was a spoof, and then I double checked that it was actually the club account, and then I actually watched the video, and I was still, I think, ahead of the curve, and that most people seem to be coming to the news after me. I had a very specific reaction that I wouldn't mind talking about later on, because I haven't mentioned it on the other shows yet. It was a bit odd, actually, but I'm more curious, and I'm sure our listeners are, to hear how you guys managed with it. We heard the blunt way in which you were told, Lisa Marie, and we haven't heard, Cam, how you engaged with the news or where you heard about it for the first time. I'm going to assume it was on the radio?
No, it wasn't actually. I was driving past Stonehenge at the time. Why? Then I was going from Somerset to Kent, and I was driving past Stonehenge on the A303. One of the guys from the office phones me, and I'm like, "Oh no, I know I fucked up yesterday," and he's obviously phoning about that because I made a big fuck up yesterday at work, and then I thought, yeah, he's going to rant and rave at me about that, and then he goes, he goes, "Cam, have you heard the news?" I'm like, no. And my phone's going crazy. Messages. I'm like, well, I'm just ignoring the phone because I'm driving. And he goes, "Jurgen Klopp stepping down." I'm like, yeah, whatever. But why have you phoned me? No, Klopp stepping down. I'm like, why are you being stupid? I'm driving, I can't check my phone or anything. And he goes, no, honestly, Cam, you step down. I'm reading it on Sky Sports right now. And I had to pull over. I had to get into a lay-by, pull over, check my phone, went straight to LSC, Twitter. And there's that video, that 2-minute video, and he's saying, I've got to tell the truth. And, and he said a lot of words, but he didn't actually say anything for me. And there was an immense sadness in the way he was saying it. It was the way he was trying to find those words. There was nothing scripted. It was from his heart, but didn't really say anything, that sort of gives us any closure in any way to say why, even though he said why, if that makes sense. And we were all sitting here now and we're all scratching our heads and we're all thinking, why? Why is he announced it now? Yes, he'd spoken to FSG. in November, and obviously told them in November, and obviously the players would have known this for a while. It's not like they would have been told today. Everybody behind the scenes, and the reason I think they've obviously let the world know is because they wanted to do it on their terms. They didn't want it, leaking out, and that's the right thing to do, even though it feels as wrong as it should. Because you think, well, it's going to derail everything. But the fact that it's coming out that he'd spoken, like I said, in November to the powers that be above. It's just I've stayed away from my phone. I've just I put a couple of thoughts in a WhatsApp group, just 2 lines, and we can come back to those later because I'm sure we'll be touching on who we think is going to replace him in the summer. And that's it. I've not responded to anybody. Well, I've had a couple of messages from people. The scum have come out of the woodwork. Let's put it that way. So it's like they've won the league. They have literally won the league today. They've won the league. They've won the European Cup. They've won the World Club Championships. They've won the Carabao Cup. They've won the Johnson Paint Trophy. They won the LDV Vans Trophy. Johnson Paint Trophy. Yeah, LDV Vans Trophy. They won the Charity Shield. All their Christmases have come together because this is bigger than Fergie leaving. Because we knew Fergie was coming to the end, 27 years. This is bigger than Fergie leaving because everybody genuinely could see that Klopp was the only one who could go head-to-head with Pep. And it just makes them feel now we've got a chance at least. All they can see is the demise of Liverpool. That's all they're looking at. And, fuck them all, because I've already placed a bet with someone that Liverpool will finish either Man United next season. So that tells you where my mind's at. No, I didn't hesitate. So they were gloating, and I said, bring it on. How much do you want to do? And he said 50 quid. I said 50 quid. If he'd said 1,000, I would have done 1,000. It bothered me. I know we will finish above Man United next season. So take that to the bank.
Well, it's unfortunate that you've been screening your calls and messages and yet managed to have those interactions with the pettier people out there. There are a lot of them. I'll give credit where it's due to my best pal who I was walking past today, biggest City fan I know, and he actually came over with the arms out for a hug saying, Jesus, bring it in here. Obviously he understood that it was going to be a very difficult sort of day for us. And I'll be honest with you, I felt like a bit of a charlatan because I didn't feel as upset as I should have felt. I was a bit detached from the whole thing. I still feel a little bit detached from it. I want to pick up on one thing you said, just to kind of clarify with you before I go to Lisa Marie for a sort of initial reaction, because there's a few places we could take this conversation. And I do want to give you guys the freedom to do whatever you want to do with it. When I was doing the show with the Raw lads about an hour ago, I was very kind of insistent on the fact that we don't get into any mawkish sentimentality. We don't get into any tributes. We don't get into anything like that, because the manager himself had said, I'm not in the mood for that. We've got things to do. And, we will have ample time over the summer to do as many tributes and teary farewells as you like. So that's the way I kind of drove that show, but I don't want to do that all the time, or I certainly don't want to insist on that all the time, because people have a right to react whatever way they want to react. I just thought that was in keeping with the spirit of that particular show. This one's different, and I want to just pick you up on the thing you said, like I say, before I go back to Lisa Marie for her take, or immediate take at least. You said that he didn't give us anything that we could hang on to for closure, and yet I suppose what he did was he went into great detail about the fact that his reason is as simple as any of us, including the three of us here currently on the call who have started to register a 5 in their age, can understand quite profoundly. He reckons it's quite simply that he does not have the energy or motivation or get up and go or will or whatever you want to say to do it anymore to the best of his ability. And I'll be honest with you, I think I don't really need any more honesty than that from him, because I do get it. I really get where he's coming from with that, Cam. And he was quite honest in that he said that he only wants to operate at optimum Kloppo. And it just hit him like a stone wall that, shit, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this again to that level. Whereas we're going to get the absolute best out of him, and I hope the players between now and the end of the season. But I can relate. I do understand there comes a time. It doesn't really matter whether it's personal relationship or a family situation or a work situation. You know when you've kind of reached the end of something, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, you're right in that respect. You do, but one thing everyone's been saying, every man, to a T has said this, that last season he looked absolutely fatigued. It looked over. It looked like he had no energy whatsoever. And we had this transformative rebuild over the summer. And he looked transformed. He looked re-energized, revitalized, full of beans, full of spunk. He had everything. It was a 2015, 2016 Klopp all over again. The 2017, 2018, 2019, 1920. It was that Klopp was there again. As much as it's like that energy that was on the pitch was coming now. He was thriving on that. He was feeding on it, and to suddenly then go, I haven't got it. And I'm going to take him at face value, obviously. I'm not going to try and speculate that there's something going on in the background. That's, for people who want to do that, that's fine, fill your boots. But I don't get how you can look so much of what he was last season and so much of how he's been this season to then suddenly say that. That's where I feel disconnected with it all. But let's just enjoy what we got coming for the rest of the season, I guess, and then look forward from there.
Yeah, and again, it's not like we have a choice, and I suppose that's kind of feeding my reaction to it in large part. But Lisa Marie, it's this is the guy who's been big man on campus since you started being involved with the club and being interested in it and following closely. For you, he is entirely synonymous with Liverpool Football Club. And of course, like all of us, and I've often heard it in your responses to things, you've had as much of an emotional connection with this guy as anything else, because one of the big things we did speak about on the Raw podcast was, losing Jurgen Klopp, the manager, is one thing, but losing Jurgen Klopp, the man, is a different thing entirely, because he has been a sort of a totem, a talisman, a lightning rod, a figure to look to in terms of inspiration, a guy whose solid takes on the world you can almost uniformly rely on, a guy who will probably say the right thing, who will chew out the Sun reporter questioning his very presence in the room, who will, rightly comment on shitty Tory policy if that is what the order of the day is. A guy whose takes are generally solid, a guy who just seems to be a good man, and a lad for whom I think all of us would run through brick walls. That's the loss here, isn't it? More than anything else. It's not necessarily what are we going to do in the immediate aftermath, because we have half a season yet where so much can still be achieved. We can think about that stuff later. Now it's just the idea of being without that, isn't it? But without that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so yes, you're correct. I mean, I have not followed a Liverpool without Jurgen Klopp. So it's an entirely, I guess, foreign concept to me to think about him not, on the scene, on the sidelines, is, doing the press con, all the things, I don't really, I have gone back and seen things and read, but as far as the day to day following the club, it's always been under his tenure. So that is very different. And, what a difference a year makes, because, it was around about this time last year when things were kind of going, pear-shaped. And we started thinking about, is it time for him to step down? Is it time for him to leave? And then we're like, but who would we want to replace him? And that was where I always got stuck, was, not so much, if there was somebody I knew waiting in the wings where it was like, yeah, let's get this guy. But there wasn't really a name that any of us could come up with that would, to help us, who would replace him. So yeah, it's all a little disconcerting, I think, in a way, it's just that whole anxiety of the future. What is it going to look like without him? But I don't think you can really start to paint that picture until we know who's going to step into his shoes. And that's not a discussion I want to have right now. I think where now that I've gotten past the initial kind of shock, if you will, I want to enjoy the time that we have, because there are so many things on the table to achieve this season. And I want us even more so to get them all. And I want to enjoy the time as we do it. I want to see, first up, let's, win the cup at the end of February, and, see him celebrating with the players there. And just, that just hopefully is the first of more than one. And yeah, so that's kind of where I've moved to already, it's going to definitely be different, and it's going to be strange, but I understand, I haven't seen the full press conference that he did. I mean, I saw the video, the announcement video, but I haven't watched, all of the, the press conference that he did this afternoon to see what other detail there is. But, but ultimately, he has to do what's best for him. And if he feels that it's in his best interest to step back at the end of the season, then, while I am very, very sad to see him go, I understand it.
Hi everyone. This month the channel is supporting a local charity based in Edinburgh called Steps to Hope. Steps to Hope helps support people who are experiencing homelessness and addiction. The founder of the charity, Richard Roncero, is currently doing a Sleep Rough campaign where he is sleeping rough on the streets in 8 different cities for 8 weeks. Please like, share and follow the Facebook page, and if you can, donate. Thank you.
There wasn't really a whole lot more detail that came out in that particular press conference. I did sit and watch it because I was off work early, and I was watching it in preparation for doing the reaction show afterwards. And maybe this is where I'll fire it back at you, Cam, because the only thing that did come out that for me was a revelation of any sort. Obviously, he had Billy Hogan beside him, and they were discussing more the kind of structural things, and he was just being upbeat about, Jurgen's decision and how they were upset about everything, but they can understand, and we move on, and we'll do the right thing for the club and so on, saying the right things, basically. But the revelation for me, and I think this might be feeding into what I'm taking from you, is a sort of a glummer attitude about the whole thing, is that it seemed to me as if the players only recently found out. In fact, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that they may have only found out in the last couple of days, because yes, he said he had been in contact with the owners, and this conversations have been going on since November, but it seems as if the players only found out very recently, from the way he was speaking at least. And, as we've just been having this and we had these chats and everyone was very positive, and, of course they are. Of course they're going to be. These guys have some of them owe their superstar status to Jurgen Klopp. Most of them owe their, albeit severely limited by Manchester City amount of medals, they owe them to Jurgen Klopp and his leadership and his guidance and all the rest of it. So I think they would have had a cheek to be anything but supportive. My worry was, what does this do to the morale of certain individuals who you can understand completely will now be looking around thinking, shit, what happens to me now? What does my future look like at the club without Jurgen here? How am I going to cope? Do I want to be here without him? And so on and so forth. You see, initially when I saw that video that we all saw this morning, I thought, oh, well, maybe that explains why we've had such a remarkable sort of finding a way to win attitude in games lately, how we've been rallying towards the end of things. Maybe they're already in this do it for the gaffer spirit, but I don't think that's the case. And when I heard initially, I was still thinking that the players had known for a while. And my initial reaction, I won't lie to you, was I would fucking hate to be playing Liverpool at least at any time between now and the end of the season. I just feel like Anfield's going to be absolutely electric every single game. I think the emotional pressure in those games is going to be very high indeed, but I think it should be essentially positive. But now I'm a little bit worried because I am hoping that all those players are absolutely along for the ride. Everything is still there on the table, but do you worry that it may affect the brain chemistry of one or two in terms of how they may be thinking about their own future? I don't know. Jan always says that players don't think past the next day, so I'm taking some comfort from that.
No, I'm not worried in the slightest in that respect. I think what we've seen this season is a group of players who are extremely focused, and you say that it's just recently where you think we've just done things, we've been turning things around. We've done it. We've been doing it all season. We've been going behind in literally every single game and coming back to win those games. Yeah, I exaggerate, every single game, but in so many games, we've just been as a unit, we've been phenomenal. I mean, we've not had a settled back four all season. We've not had a settled midfield all season. We always knew who was going to be, moving the strike force around. And Jota's been out and for large chunks of the season, and obviously Gakpo's finding his feet, and Diaz had all his troubles with his parents back home in Colombia, and Darwin has been striker 1 week, left wing 1 week, off the bench 1 week, trying to score from 2 yards out and hitting the keeper every time. This set of players is something else, but this is, and honestly, the mentality is 1920 levels, 1819 levels. That's their attitude. I mean, I can't think of, you allude to, you think some players are going to be thinking, oh, my future. Who do you think, Trev? You're thinking that? Sure.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. When I went to go examine that as a line of thought, I realized that Jurgen Klopp himself and his policy of hiring good lads means that I don't actually have to worry about that at all. Because I think, without wanting to be too naive about it, we have got lads with tremendous attitudes. We have got lads who are going to want to make sure that they're in the plans of whoever comes next. It's just, I guess, when you have... Here's the thing. If it was... I don't know if you recall when Ferguson announced the first time that he was retiring.
Yeah.
And things started to go a little bit awry, and then he reneged on it, and he came back and all the rest of it. Everybody understands that if you say you're going, then suddenly your authority has waned. It's just as simple as that. And I think I was starting to think of it, and my brain started clicking into that immediately. And then I thought, well, actually, without being too naive or too sentimental about it, I think it is probably quite different in this context. I think the situation with Jurgen is going to be based on emotion, and it's going to be based on the feeling of achieving something and that togetherness that the group has and that ability to rally. I am hoping that that's going to be more than enough to drive towards a successful completion to the season. I personally believe it will be with this group. I don't think there's going to be any issues around authority or whatever, because the manager is in situ till the end of the season, and that's literally all that matters. And like I said a couple of minutes ago, players only think a couple of games ahead. Like, if you're not in the team, you know, you hate the manager. In inverted commas. It's as simple as that. If you're in the team, you love the manager. It's as simple as that for players. And, you know, so I guess we don't really have a reason to worry. I guess we don't, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think we do. I'd be very surprised. I mean, if you take Virgil and Alisson and Mo out of that team, it's a young, hungry team. There are three elder statesmen, obviously, and Joel as well. Thiago, maybe. Well, yeah. I've got thoughts on Thiago, actually. We'll come back to that maybe later. There's, you know, you've got 4 or 5 players there who are quite senior, obviously very senior players, but they've been there, they've done it. The rest of them, they want it. They want it bad. And you can see that. I mean, let's just say they knew 2 days ago. 2 days ago, we played Fulham away. Did you see the way those players were playing? Did you see the way they were pressing? Did you see the way they were hunting that ball down? That's not a set of players who've got their own mentality. That's a set of players who want something. These players want it, and they won't let us down.
I think you're right. And that brings us to another vital element that's going to be a key part of success or not success between now and the end of the season. I'm going to be lucky enough to be able to sample the home atmosphere in a couple of days' time for the evening game against Chelsea, Lisa Marie. And I think
you're just trying to make me feel even worse on my birthday. Nice, Trev.
I am. It's basically my objective here. My immediate reaction was, oh man, I can't wait for that, because it's going to be absolutely hopping. I would have thought. I know there is the Norwich game, and that's the first game after the fans will have found out, and obviously the atmosphere will be very good. But I think there's something about that night game against Chelsea when it's the league, and the league is the big one that we all want, and it is very much still in our hands. I can't see anything other than a hugely highly charged atmosphere. The question I have for you is, again, just to go back to the words of the manager, he was saying, look, please just accept the decision, and please also don't make this about me. Don't sing my song until the end of the game was something he was asking a long time beforehand. It was kind of pissing him off because he reckoned it was almost like an indicator the game was won. He didn't like that, and he wanted concentration to the end and all that kind of stuff, or complete focus on the game till the end. I get where he was going with that. I think it's out of his hands now. I don't think he's in a position to really ask for anything, and even if he does ask for anything, I think he'll be roundly ignored. People are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to be very emotional about this guy. They're going to want to show it, and he will probably be frustrated by the Jurgen Klopp song being sung by all and sundry at any given time, because people just will want to express their love for this guy, their admiration for this guy. So in a long-winded fashion, I'm getting to the point of the question. Would you have any fears at all about a thing that I've seen happen live in the flesh a few times, all the way back in the 08-09 season when we had Torres and Gerrard and we were going for the league under Rafa Benitez? We had a 0-0 draw. We stayed top of the league, but the whole ground was ridden with angst. The atmosphere was oppressive. We've seen it before where things have gone awry under Rodgers, and the angst again is something you could almost reach out and cut with a knife. Do you think there's a danger of that, or do you think the celebratory thing of it will be the dominant thing, and that fans will have that, look, let's, come what may, it's all about celebrating Jurgen, celebrating these boys between now and the season? It seems like an obvious answer, but it might not be. What do you reckon?
I don't know. Yeah, that's, you think it would be the obvious answer, but we've seen it not necessarily be that way. Yeah, I don't know. On one hand, I mean, I kind of like that it's Chelsea because I feel like we just really owe them for the, the opening day draw, like, because, that's been, and I think that's been a regret for a lot of us and probably the players as well that, they've just been not good this season. And damn that, that should have been 3 points, not 1 point, to start us off. But hindsight being what it is. So I think, I think everyone will be kind of I think it'll almost feel maybe a little bit like, the European nights, under the lights, just a little bit of that, first game back in the league at home. Cause we haven't been home in the league, for a while, since the 1st of January, I think, when we played Newcastle. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see as the weeks go on how that feeling, does it just continue to build, or, is it going to be kind of like a little bit of a knee jerk, everybody will be up for it. Like, here, this game, couple games, and then, maybe there's a bit of a drop off and again, depending on how results are going and stuff. But I think that's to me is a more interesting question is, does it just, just start at this high level and just keep, going and maintaining, or will we see it start up high and then just kind of drop and then maybe just depending on results and where things are going, build back up again? Because that's a lot to have to maintain. It's it'll be the 31st of January on Wednesday. I mean, that's multiple months of having to maintain, and that's exhausting. To have to stay.
What has the situation done to your belief around getting those results? I mean, it's obviously going to have an impact in some way, shape, or form. It could have a galvanizing effect. It could have an inspirational effect. It could be for the gaffer as we go out and everybody's sort of extra enthused. That is a distinct possibility. And it's the one I found myself assuming would be the case initially. That might be a little bit naive on my part. I feel with that in mind and knowing the attitudinal response that I expect from the lads, I'm quite enthused. I think that it's all possible. I heard the manager say, talking about, there'll be a time to celebrate, and he was talking about whether it's here or in different countries, and that's obviously a nod to hopefully getting to the Europa League final and in Dublin. And we all have these dreams of play. He himself has these dreams of playing the 30 odd games that could potentially remain in this season, were we to reach an FA Cup final and a Europa League final, as well as the Carling Cup final and playing out the league and hopefully having success in that. The big one for me, obviously, is that Jurgen gets to win the big one on his way out. I think there's something that feels very right about that. It also has that sort of vaguely storybook feel that all of the Klopp era has had. Yes, there are crushing lows, but there are also incredible highs. And I don't know, the romantic in me is starting to think that this may be just one of the most remarkable run-ins ever. And then the other part of me is saying, don't be so naive. I don't know where I'm landing on this. You usually have a better bearing on how you're feeling about things. What do you reckon is possible now? Do you think it's going to have that positive effect, or do you think it may take away from what we had been building?
I'm leaning more toward the positive effect. But I could be naive right along there with you. But yeah, because before, just thinking back, we've already talked, Cam alluded to it earlier in the podcast. We've talked about it in the last couple of podcasts. There's already been this just, completely different mindset to the season. The resilience and the, getting the wins no matter what we need to. That's already kind of, that stage has been set without this added storyline of it being Jurgen's last season. So I am leaning toward that. Yeah, that's just gonna, group of players. They're all very much, devoted or seemingly, to Klopp. And so I just really think, yes, that's just going to push them even more to let's do it for the gaffer.
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'm hoping that's the case. I am hoping that's the case. And Cam, I want to go back to you on that as well, because I just have this sense that you're a little bit more down rather than necessarily thinking that it's going to have the opposite, the more positive effect on the season. I just want to initially get a feel from you on how you think it's going to impact the remainder of this campaign, which has the potential to be absolutely glorious. I mean, there are 4 potential titles there on the line. The first of them against Chelsea in a month's time, and then theoretically, were we to reach an FA Cup final and a Europa League final, they are available to us. I think we're the best team left in both of those competitions, and I think we're the best team left in the league. And I'm basically saying I think that we have more than Manchester City. Were we to play to our potential between now and the end of the season. We've got a lot of lads hopefully starting to line up to come back. You mentioned Thiago, the lesser spotted Alcantara. I'm not sure I believe he's real, but I do know that we've got Trent looming. I know we've got Dom Szoboszlai looming. I know we've got the potential of Mo Salah coming back after his injury. We know what that means. We've got Darwin Núñez in the goals at last. We've got Diogo Jota scoring for fun. And now we appear to have options in midfield, having finally sorted that, and hopefully we'll have Endo to come back and bolster that area too. February and March are going to be the kicker. They're going to be the big deal. It's where all the pressure is going to come on. How are you feeling about how this group, in the context of Klopp and his announcement, cope with that? You're going to have to say that again, buddy, because you seem like you're a bit far away from your mic there.
Sorry, I said we're going to do the quadruple.
Wow, okay.
I'd love to say I genuinely believe that, but I feel every game will now be treated like a cup final. This the attitude that they're going to go in with, that this is the game we have to win. This is the game we have to win. I think this group of players are going to put everything into every single game. They're not going to leave anything out on that pitch. They're going to want it so much. They want to. I'm going to say that Jurgen, for me, has been the best Liverpool manager I've ever seen. I just think the way he did what he did when he came in, it was a shocking team that he took over. To have done what he's done and to compete against what he's competed against just puts him head and shoulders above. I know Sir Bob was always the one 9 trophies. I think it was 20 ridiculous amount of trophies. he didn't quite have the competition. Again, the same for Kenny, he didn't quite have the competition. You know, even though he built that glorious 87-88 team, some of the football will never be better, but what Klopp has built and essentially laid the foundations for this season is something else. And yeah, I just think we're gonna do some madness this season. It's gonna be, you know, the league's gonna be petrified of what's coming. The Europa League, they're gonna be petrified. Chelsea are thinking now, this is not what we wanted here. And in the FA Cup, you know, unless we should beat Norwich, no disrespect to Norwich, we should beat Norwich. And, you know, then see what the next round brings if we do get through that. But, I just think it's going to be such a fun season now. It's just going to be mad. Honestly, it's going to be pure madness. You're going to see so much energy from players. Telling you, they're going to be next level. You're not going to have seen these levels. I'm telling you, they're going to go mad. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. I mean, I'm going to the Burnley game. Mando's coming over and move. And me and Gags are going up on Friday. We're going to hook up with them, and that's just going to be fun. It's going to be brilliant. Because Burnley like to play football. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I think the main thing is funneling that energy the right way. And listen, just between now and when I'm speaking to you next, you're still quite low there, man. I don't know if you need to turn up your gain or the connection's a bit off. There's little clicking bits going on. So if you wouldn't just mind having a mute in there and having a bit of an exam of what's going on with your mic for a sec. It's about how that energy is going to be channeled, isn't it, Lisa Marie? Because as Cam says, it does have the feel that it's going to be crazy. It was my initial reaction to think, Christ alive, this is going to be absolutely mental now between now and the end of the season. It's just going to be off the rails. That will need to be very carefully corralled, won't it? That'll need to be very carefully focused, because we are an emotional lot as supporters. Our players are an emotional lot. You know, you can imagine. Can you imagine Andy Robbo, you know, with a little bit of excess emotion going on there? I mean, the guy is an Energizer bunny at the best of times. He's going to be coming back rested now.
I was going to say he's coming off of a 3-month rest. So yeah.
I would fear for anyone who's going to be trying to track his runs between now and the end of the season. I would fear for anyone who's going to be playing on his side of the pitch, because he's going to be squawking his head off. I just feel that it's probably, I would back these guys to have the discipline to focus that fury, that extreme enthusiasm, that violent electric kinetic energy that's going to be coming from the crowd, because you know, it started already. Cam was talking about his own relatives and stuff who are Manx supporters. It started already. All the little comments, all the little things, all the little digs. Jurgen alluded to it. People are going to try to use this against us. They're going to try and rile up Liverpool fans. They're going to try and rile up Liverpool players. They're going to try and get into the minds of referees and say, oh, everyone's being too sentimental about Liverpool. Every single potential dirty trick will be used. Again, I think I'm backing these guys to have enough about them for that to actually be nothing else except a motivational factor. If you think about it, we've got Virgil van Dijk now as a captain. He has an opportunity to lift 4 trophies. Virgil's just a born winner, and I don't see much getting in his way. We have Ali doing Ali things between now and the end of the season. Cam mentioned the other sort of senior member of that spine in Mo Salah. Again, when he comes back, you would back him in the wake of very disappointing comments and lack of support from his own countrymen about, you know, sort of copping out with his injury. You'd imagine he's going to come back absolutely fired up, hopefully, you know, nicely rested and his hamstring in premium condition. But we've also got all this youthful energy that Cam alluded to as well. You've got your Darwin Núñez, you've got all these other kids who are just chomping at the bit, really desperately wanting their first taste of major success. And yeah, maybe it's naive, Lisa Marie, but I just think that excess of emotion will probably be able to be filtered because of the presences that we have on that field, because of those old wise heads, the discipline that we can expect from the likes of them, even hyper fellas like Andy Robbo.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, plus you've also got, so you've got players too like Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott that, were on the fringes of the last, successes. Not so much the two cups that we won, but when we won the league, they were there kind of on the fringes, and, they're going to want their own, if you will. They may or may, got medals, for the league, but they weren't as big of a part of, of that title win. So I think, that group, of players as well is going to be just kind of hungry for, for their, not just to have that ownership, I guess, if you will, of the success. So I think we do have, we've got players that have got the proper mindset that I don't think are going to lose their heads in the wrong way. I think, they can put their heads down and just push through to, take it a game at a time, and and all the cliches, to win the things. And yeah, so I do. I know, again, I'm naive right along there with you, but I think, I don't know. I think our mindset as fans is just as important as, the mindsets of the players and everyone as well. That, if, let's just say, for example, okay, so we play Arsenal, next weekend, and that's a draw. Okay, but so it is. So you put it behind you and you move on. Don't get caught up in, oh my God, who knows, that could drop us to second place, or, it's February. Let's, not lose sight of, there's still a lot to go. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll be upset if we drop points, but I don't think we can get lost as fans in, a misstep or whatever. We've just got to push past it and, and be ready to cheer for the next win.
Absolutely fair. And I think that's exactly where we're all at. And I hope that we are in a position to do what Jurgen was saying there, which is, when we all meet each other in a while, we'll be able to look back and smile at what an incredible time everyone shared together. It's kind of interesting. And just to finish up with this, because I suppose we should acknowledge the reality of the situation as well as everything else. I said we wouldn't have any kind of mawkish sentimental chat about how great Jurgen is and how we're going to do a big cry. We can do that if you want, but like I said, there'll be plenty of time for those type of things when the season has concluded. But the reality of the situation, Cam, which I think you wanted to get to at some point, I know, Lisa Marie, you're not as anxious to talk about this, but just to float it out there, because it is a very real thing, we have to start considering now life beyond Kloppo. And it's not just the manager. We're also going to be losing Pete Krawiec, Pep Linders and Vitor Matos. They're all going. The suggestion is that Pep and Vitor are going to go as a pair somewhere, and Pep's going to manage with Matos as his assistant. Krawiec is probably just going to go and have a nice break and maybe pick up again with Jurgen if he starts somewhere else, I would imagine. And obviously, that's quite the clean out. We've already, Cam, had a clean out of all the backroom boys who were so synonymous with the early success for Klopp. There are rumours of one of the more prominent one of those, the most prominent one of those, potentially being invited back now in the wake of Kloppo's departure, perhaps as director of football. And there are other clearly obvious rumours which are being broached with the man himself of another ex-Red in the form of Xabi Alonso being approached for the job. I have thoughts, I'm sure you do yourself, in terms of where Xabi Alonso is in his progress and development. They used to have a saying at Liverpool Cam, which is basically shows your medals. And, Xabi Alonso's not in a position to do that yet as a coach, I guess is where I'm going. That's the short version of it. Yeah. But the last time something as heartbreaking as this happened to you and I suppose people took Rafa's departure badly, but it was Kenny, wasn't it? And Kenny was my idol. Kenny was the reason I became interested in Liverpool Football Club. He's the first thing I remember about it, him scoring that goal in the 78 Cup final. Yeah. I very much imprinted on Kenny as my hero, and then to see him go and do what he did, to see him turn into actual Roy of the Rovers, as I've said in another podcast today, to become a player manager and to win the double, which, was such a rare thing in those days, and then to reinvent himself as a manager and create what was the greatest side we've ever seen in wearing Liverpool red. For that guy to go, I was bereft. I was absolutely bereft, and everything went to shit after Kenny left. Everything just went to shit. And it wasn't even slow. It was quite spectacularly bad. And in many ways, that was the end of success, really, on a proper scale until Klopp. You could say that this era that he ushered in must be what people felt like when they were supporting Liverpool in the Shankly days, and him leaving must be as powerful as Shankly's departure, because he has reinvigorated the culture of the club and turned us back into the giants of football that the club was then. We're massive. Every fucker wants to talk about our club. They can't help themselves. You mentioned it before. And, the achievements are there. And if it wasn't for the patently obvious cheating that's been going on elsewhere, there'd be more league titles and more European Cups in the bag. Let's put that to one side for now and just say he has made us giants again. How do you replace that, Cam?
I thought you weren't doing a tribute to him. And you just can't help it, because that's what he does to us.
It's context, I guess. Context.
It is, and you've touched on so much there, and I'm just going to sort of stick to life after Klopp, I think, and where we should potentially be looking. And my first thought was to the offer of Striker and Sweeney, because I know he's available. And, just imagine big Stevie, Bruce, orchestrating car cop out to one side, Trent down to the other. Cam Brainch, Lisa Marie looking at each other, sat there thinking, what the fuck are we doing here? No, in all seriousness, I had to bring that in. Sorry. In all seriousness, sorry. I've got three names in my mind as to where I think we'll probably be looking at. One is the obvious, and that's Xabi Alonso, and you can't take away what he's done in a season and a half at Leverkusen, isn't it? And how the football they're playing this season, and that's the key. The football they are playing, it is phenomenal football. It's something you can see him doing with this group of players. So that's obviously going to make him, one of the favourites for the position. The other name is, I don't know if anybody's been mentioning it out there, but it's a manager that I've liked for a long, long, long time. And I think this guy, with the right resources, and this is something I'm going to touch on after I've named the 3 managers, with the right resources, and I think we've got the right resources, could possibly be a world beater. And shoot me down by all means, and that would be Julian Nagelsmann. I just think there's something about that guy. He's got a great footballing brain. And I remember watching his Hoffenheim team, at Anfield, and there's something there. So he's one that I think the club would like to look at, because I think I'll come to this point after I've made this one's a complete left field, possibly another Roy of the Rovers, but I don't know if it would ever, even if you would entertain it, and it's probably just absolute ridiculousness, and that would be the ghost himself of Thiago Alcantara as a player manager when not playing. So I don't know. I mean, that could be, that is as extreme left field as you're going to get. But what I will say is, life after Klopp, and this is what's going to be really important, is it needs to be a manager who can work with FSG. And that's really, really important. And FSG have always wanted young, dynamic, forward-thinking people to come in and run the football side of things, because that's how they see it working. That's why they were looking at, when they obviously asked Kenny to come in and just stabilise things, and then they were looking at Martinez, and then obviously settled on Brendan after Brendan first rejected them, because they wanted that type of manager. But Klopp was always the ideal. Klopp was the dream, and obviously we got him, and we're going to have had him for 8.5 years, and they have been the best 8.5 years of my football life. I can't get over that. I've seen I've been to 2 Champions League finals because of the guy. I can't thank him enough for that. And crikey, I don't want to do that. So whoever then comes in the summer has to be able to work with FSG and know that these are the parameters. So this is where the likes of, you wouldn't be looking at Ancelotti, for example, because he's very much a checkbook manager. You wouldn't be looking at Jose Mourinho, for example. I know we wouldn't be anyway, but he would bite his own arm off to be manager of Liverpool Football Club. Jose Mourinho loves Liverpool Football Club. Jose Mourinho, when he was at Porto, wanted Liverpool Football Club more than he wanted Chelsea, I reckon. He was gutted, I think, that he didn't get. He loves our fans. He loves our passion. And this is what any manager coming in, they are coming in to the greatest football team, the greatest football club, in the world. But they've got to be able to work with owners who are frugal, to say the least. That's the challenge.
That is a challenge. It's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out. And of course, the person I was alluding to is Michael Edwards, and there is talk.
Yeah.
There is talk, and listen, it's because he's gone off and he's set up his own thing. But there's this supposition that perhaps he might be tempted back. I don't know. Never say never. You don't know. No, and nobody knows anything at this stage. It's all very, very speculative. They seemed quite calm in the meeting today, Hogan and Klopp, very calm when they were talking about doing the right thing, going through the motions, following the process. But I think anyone speculating at this stage is simply doing that. We want to be absolutely clear. We're only just, floating around ideas that we may have heard a couple of rumors, or we may have a couple of preferences ourselves, but that's literally all it is. But we should start wrapping it up. I want to keep this to an hour. There's a lot of content out there for people to get their ears around, so I'm just conscious of not having it too long. So we should wrap it up, I guess, with, having had our show completely hijacked by the news today. We haven't had a chance to talk about any of the usual things or any of the usual subjects that we like to talk about, which are often non-football related. We have very much, like I say, been hijacked by some very dramatic news. That's fine. What else are we going to do except engage with that? It is going to be the topic of discussion between now and June and beyond. Unless that is resolved. And again, that's another thing. Do you make any announcements while the man is still in situ? What's the dynamic that results in? There's a lot for them to get right here, and hopefully they will. But the main thing is that the lads get it right on the field and Klopp gets it right on the sidelines so that we can celebrate as much as we can while he's still here. So with that, I'll ask Lisa Marie and Cam if they have any final thoughts. The only thing I want to draw attention to is you're going to need some distraction from this Jurgen chat, and you may have become aware that myself and Dave have really launched Buzz back in a big way. We have started a companion series for the new True Detective series 4. We did episode 2 last night. It's out now. And we also did our second film after Saltburn. We did last night a nostalgic look at the 90s action classic The Rock. That will be continuing. You will have that content to distract you from football related matters. Those pods are around about 50 minutes to an hour. We're doing our very best to keep you entertained away from the football, but still part of the channel and part of the bigger community. So do give your attention to those if you haven't already. Point your friends who are non-football fans in the direction of those. If you would, I'd appreciate that immensely. There are all sorts of people who might not necessarily give a flying what about football, but would be very interested in talking about True Detective or a movie or whatever it happens to be. So tell your pals. Lisa Marie, any final words from yourself?
Not really. Think of me as I am at the dance competition this weekend, so I will miss the match on Sunday because Mary Kristen is set to dance, right around the match will probably be over by the time she dances, but because I will be in, dance mom mode, I probably won't have an opportunity to watch what is hopefully going to be a win against Norwich and advancing us further for the FA Cup. But yeah, no. Trev, enjoy the Chelsea match on Wednesday. I'm not at all jealous. You definitely did not see that my eyes had turned bright green when we had the cameras on at the beginning of the podcast.
Yes, Julie noted that you were a picture of generous spiritedness, and I appreciate it very much. And we do actually.
That's birthday present to you, Lisa.
Yeah, I was going to say we do genuinely wish you only the finest for your.
Well, thank you.
Your 29th birthday again, and Cam, what about you? Final thoughts.
Just a shout out to Carl Kopak and the Norwich Ultras.
There you go, Carl and the Norwich Ultras. It's a hell of a gang of lads. It's a hell of a gang of lads. I was actually speaking to young Kopak about potential arrangements should Dublin feature in all of our immediate futures. And I extend the invitation to yourselves here now, live in the air, so I can't take it back. If we do manage to get to that particular final, consider me Casa, Sue Casa, and we can work out the details afterwards. Let's
you have a
wrap it up.
I already staked my claim many months ago. So
you did. But I don't have a shed to rival your recently
no shed I ain't coming.
not as pimped up as your recently pimped up shed, but I do have an actual room. Hopefully that won't be too much of a letdown for you. With floorboards.
Modern luxuries, though.
So on that note of potential hopeful celebration and hopeful continued success under Mr. Jurgen Klopp until he is no longer the manager of Liverpool, we will wrap up this episode of AIP. From myself, from Cam, from Lisa Marie. We'll see you soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.